This is the Broadtek and Promwad podcast, where innovation meets execution in AV and broadcast technology. In this episode, we zoom in on a critical topic, low latency. From live events to streaming, discover how to minimize delay and maximize performance with the right software and hardware design strategies.
Joined again today by Yury and Vadim. We're going to talk about low latency streaming for broadcast and in particular camera companies. So what are the main challenges that you guys come across mainly for those types of companies?
The main challenge is if we are going to design the product from scratch, we need to prepare architecture of the solution very accurately. Whether we need to integrate libraries, whether we need to integrate IP cores, or we need to develop from scratch IP cores based on ST2110, for example. So it depends. So that is the crucial. Here we need to define how many devices are going to be produced. What is the expected price for the device? So it would help both of us, for us, like the design company, and for the customer to understand what is better and cost-effective to use in their particular scenarios. So,
yeah, it's always like time and money question.
Yeah.
Whatever, you can enrich the solution with whatever features you want. They will take time and they will cost you a penny, right?
Yeah.
So basically, it's always some kind of mixture. What to do to make it like reasonable price and at the same time feature rich enough to make the customer buying it.
You mentioned ST2110. There's a lot of confusion around ST2110, and can we talk about that in comparison to, for example, NDI, where it's like a library with the NDI, and ST2110. It's different there because there's a lot of development work that needs to do. Can you kind of define the differences for people around?
Yeah, it's completely different. So 2110 leads development or integration of the IP core. So you need to collaborate with the chip vendor. You need to purchase the IP cores from the chip vendor. You need to have the partnership with them in order to get support. So because sometimes it is not clear how to deal with the IP core, and there are some questions to them how to do it better. For the NDI, it's let's say it's more or less easier because it is described, and the whole libraries are provided in binaries, and there are examples how to deal with it. So and this stack relates on all parts. So it's related to the networking. You are putting the specific libraries on the camera to integrate libraries on sources and on the receivers. And it's not a big deal, but yeah, some effort should be paid to that. So yeah, and so 2110 definitely takes more efforts to develop or even integrate.
And there are libraries within 2110, but let's say you wanted to develop something new, that's where you'd need that development option. So explain a bit more about the 20, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about 2110. I want to be able to use your expertise to focus in on what people need to know, especially if you're a camera manufacturer, in adopting that kind of technology.
So even if 2110 is really hard to develop, but it doesn't mean that it is necessary to develop it, like to say, in the whole. So there are different standards, there are a lot of standards, and these particular standards, they cover different scenarios. So you can take, just for example, we need to uncompress video, or compress it, or just transmit it. So, and all of these are covered by the 2110 and by the customer needs, by their workflows, where implemented what particular they need.
And then in comparison to NDI, where these are just, essentially you just take that and then you just incorporate it in. And what's the, from a development perspective, what's the difference?
So the approach is completely different. So for NDI, we just need to integrate libraries. For ST, we need to prepare architecture to choose the specific FPGA or, yeah, let's say FPGA. So we need to figure out what is easier to purchase IP cores or to develop it from scratch. So the approach is completely different. So the part, NDI part is just to integrate. Here we can integrate some IP cores and develop from scratch some others. So on the particular scenarios of the customer.
And there's clear value for it being a proprietary codec, because it's all there for you. And the value is you're paying that kind of subscription fee because it's that much easier to be able to develop.
So if we're talking about the codec, and we need to talk also about the latency. For example, in some projects, so we are also discussing, of course, everybody tells the latency should be less than 50 milliseconds. Sometimes it is not possible to achieve. But having the access to the sources, we can optimize something. Having no access to the sources, like we work with binary files, we just can tell, so it works as it is. If it is 100 or 200 milliseconds, so we can't do anything with it. In this case, yeah, if we're talking about the ultra low latency, so maybe it is better to have access to the sources and to understand the architecture and to do something with it.
And let's say if you were a vendor that came to you and said, look, what I want to do is I want to make a tech stack based on NDI. I want some transmitter or transceivers. I want to make some cameras or maybe some PTZs. I want to be able to have a really good kind of cloud-based service to be able to install and do all the things that I need to do on that. How much of that can you get involved in, both hardware and software?
If we are starting from scratch, yeah, we can support customer in the full life cycle of the device, from the design, architecture, and support, and even legacy support when this device would be 5 years old or 7 years old. So yeah, the full cycle, the hardware design, mechanical design, industrial design as well. So hardware, software, firmware development and support of all of this stuff, and manufacturing for mass production, certification support also. So the full life cycle of the design of the device.
And of course, because you've got so much experience, that obviously for every client that comes, that they're benefiting because of all of that experience that you have, working with S2110 and NDI, and also you've done work with Dante. What other protocols do you work with?
So normally we're dealing with NDI, with NMOS, ST2110.
H.264, 265.
It's codecs.
Codecs, okay.
I wish we work with Dante, but I hope that this year we will start any project on the software development with Dante. So
yes, we just covered the most popular stack that's on the market. So yeah, what Vadim has mentioned.
So if I approached you and said something, I brought to your attention something new. I said, I want to work with this, A-speed chipset that's doing JPEG 2000. And you don't, let's say you don't have that competency in-house. How do you approach it to be able to solve that problem?
When we plan let's say the capacity of the unit, even for the year, we are putting the educational plans into their workload. And of course, several years ago, we've never dealt with ST2110, but we started the investigation of the protocol. We developed some kind of proof of concept for our needs. So we're investigating if something can be used like open source. And for example, the Sony, the company, they are providing the CPP model for NMOS. So the portion of this code can be taken, and it is pure regarding the licenses and can be used in any commercial project. So everything is like put into educational plans, what we're going to do, and we plan this work for the year. And of course, it's related to IPMX and for NDI and previously for ST. and everything like that. Yeah.
Well, that here, as Vadim mentioned, we have some learning curve internally, playing with different tools and technologies. But speaking about the customer and cooperation with the customer, so firstly, we surely transparently say that, hey guys, this is something kind of new for us. We've played that internally, but we haven't done with that commercially. So what we offer to them is the initial stage called discovery phase, when we like learn together or prepare proof of concept, some kind of or MVP or something like that, which allows us to play with the new technology, with the new tool, with a minimum of budget, and make sure that either way, that's something capable we really can do. So in this case, we just go into the main development stage, or we understand that this part hasn't worked out for us, so we say, okay, things happen. Let's do something else.